It was almost midnight when she suddenly grabbed my arm. The street was quiet, lit by a few broken lamps, and her grip was trembling. She leaned closer and whispered, "Act like you're my husband," before I could ask anything. Her fingers tightened and fear flashed across her face. I froze for a second, completely confused. I barely knew her. We were just neighbors who exchanged polite greetings. My heart started racing, but something in her eyes told me this was serious, not a joke. Behind us, I noticed footsteps slowing down. A man stood a few meters away, pretending to check his phone, but clearly watching us. Instinct kicked in. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders and pulled her close like it was natural. She rested her head against my chest, breathing fast. I felt how scared she was, and it made my own fear sharper. I smiled loudly and spoke about nonsense, pretending we were a couple out for a late walk. The man stared for a few seconds longer, then finally turned and walked away. Only when his shadow disappeared did she loosen her grip. Her knees almost gave out, and I had to steady her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He's been following me for days." Her voice cracked, and I realized how hard it must have been for her to ask a stranger for help. We walked together to the nearest cafe that was still open. Under the warm lights, she finally relaxed a little. She told me she had moved here recently and lived alone, and the man had started appearing everywhere she went. I listened quietly, feeling a mix of anger and concern. I offered to walk her home every night until she felt safe again. She looked surprised, then nodded, grateful but hesitant. Over the next few days, we talked more than we ever had before. Late walks turned into long conversations. I learned about her dreams, her disappointments, and how lonely she had been since moving here. One night, she laughed and said, "Funny how pretending made things real." I didn't know how to respond, because I was starting to feel the same way. What began as an act was slowly changing my heart. But then, one evening, she seemed distant. She avoided my eyes and ended the walk early. The next day, she didn't answer my messages, and worrying crept back in. I found out the reason sooner than I expected. The man returned, but this time I was ready. I confronted him calmly but firmly, warning him that the police were already informed. Something in my tone must have convinced him, because he never came back again. When I told her what happened, tears filled her eyes. Not from fear this time, but relief. She hugged me tightly, no acting required. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Yet our walks didn't stop. They became something we both looked forward to, a safe space we had created together. One night, standing under the same broken street lamp, she looked at me and smiled softly. That night, she said, "I thought I was just trying to survive." I nodded. So did I. She took my hand, this time gently, and whispered, "But I didn't expect to find someone who would stay." I realized then that what started as fear had turned into trust, and trust had turned into something deeper. We didn't need to pretend anymore. Late at night, on that quiet street, I understood the truth. I thought I was just acting like her husband, but somehow, in the process, I became the man she could finally feel safe with.